how does it feel to have this finally go through?
Well, fantastic, really. I mean, it's I don't know. I think it's an emotional issue, but it's also a challenge. I mean, it's the start of something that I think it's gonna be very important for the planet and not only for my country. So we have a lot of work to do until now.
Mm-hmm. And tell me about your connection with nature through your life, and what experiences have you had that have prompted you to get to where you are today, advocating so heavily on behalf of the natural world?
Well, El Salvador, as you know, is a country with high level of biodiversity. So it's located in Mesoamerica, which is one of the most important places in the planet around biodiversity. And since I was very young, actually, I have enjoyed about the nature, the forest, the landscape, the seascape, and making me appreciate it all. But in the last decade, we have not only see how natural resources have deteriorated, but also in the first hand, we know the threat about climate change. My country is one of the most vulnerable countries around the world, and to see the risk of my people, the livelihoods people, and the well-being of my people made me think about what can I do for the solution of that, for make an direct impact and influence in this situation. That's why I really think how to restore that we have lost in the last few decades. And I truly believe that this is possible. And especially in my country, it's easy. I mean, it's political willingness, but also to have technology, to have a framework, to have interchanges, experiences with different countries, and look for solution and alternatives, but together, not only in my country, but with other countries, with different organizations. And I'm very positive person. I mean, I believe that everything is possible if we are doing together. So I think my connection with nature, but most important, my motivation to do something is that I believe it's possible. I believe it's a very hard work, yes, but we have the experience around the planet, and especially in the Global Landscape Forum, I really learned that if we are doing together, oh my God, it's it's going to be a fantastic world, not only for our kids or the next generation, but for our generation.
Mm-hmm. And you have been described often as an optimist, and it's something that you're very self-aware of, I can tell. And you have all this beautiful hope. And El Salvador, it's really reflected in its the high bar it's set for itself, and its ambitious, trying to restore half of its landscapes by 2030. That's huge. How do you spread this optimism and this hope to other countries that also need to step up their restoration and their ambitions?
That's why I think we need this framework. Put together all our experiences, that if you really know that other countries, especially my country, small country with economic problems, if, if you see that small country can do this, can restore their own country, that is the main issue. And the IPCC, the last IPCC report, the 1.5 special report, uh, they said that action is urgent. We cannot wait. So I think I can show some other countries that it's possible to do it, that we recognize different experiences around the world, and man, it's easy to learn from others how to do it, and not only about the successful stories, but also the mistakes that you that you have to pass through. So I think um, been doing all the time, and you need to hear from someone that it's possible.
Hmm. Well, we're glad to have your country saying that it's possible for sure. And it was exciting to hear even more countries join today,
No,
adding their
actually,
peoples
yes.
to.
Have you seen that? I mean, almost 70 countries want to co-participate with us,
Hmm.
and we're not alone. Everybody wants to do it. Everybody wants to be prepared. Every country wants to be prepared for the climate change impacts. Everybody wants to adapt to the climate change, and that you need to convince them is that the solution have to be based on nature. It's
Hmm.
cost effective. It's really you can see the improvements in your landscapes. So that's what you need to prove, and especially with the private sector, because this is not only for the governments, this is not only for the citizens, but also the private sector have to be involved in this resolution in this decade to work together with us.
Hmm. Absolutely.
And it might seem a little bit ambitious, but it's not. We have no other alternative. We have no other alternative. That's the point. So I think they're gonna do it, and we have to work together with the SDGs, because it's about the development of the country. It's about the economy of our country. It's not about only environment.
Hmm. And you've been very clear about the SDGs and specifically which ones that this will tie
Exactly.
heavily into.
Exactly. And I didn't mention the most important SDG, which is the SDG number one. I mean, you reduce poverty. If you want to reduce poverty, if you want to make a strong economy in your country, you cannot do it without thinking about the restoration. You need to restore your ecosystem and your landscape if you want to have a development in your country.
Absolutely. So tell me how this idea first came about for the decade.
I always say the best idea it's on a table and in front of a glass of wine. That's where the idea came from. I mean, I was with a horse driver. We were talking about the future, and in the middle of a meeting of the Global Landscape Forum, in the middle of people who believe in that, the people who are very uh, smart and strong in their beliefs. So we thought at that time, and we think now that we need a framework. We need to put all together not only the three conventions, the United Nations Convention, the climate change and biodiversity, and also the land degradation, but we need to put together the agendas of the main organizations, UNEP and FAO. Both of them have to work together. Agriculture is one of the main issues in restoration. You don't need to restoration only the ecological restoration. I mean, your natural protected areas. This is important, but you don't want green island in the middle of a toxic ocean. You need to restore the production, you need to restore the agriculture, you need to change the way that you are doing the thing right now because it doesn't work. I mean, we're losing all the time. We're losing in every climate impact that we have. So I think institutions such as FAO or UNEP are supporting us because of that, because they see an opportunity to channel effort and actions, assure us that we were in the right direction and have to it. And I think we also have a fantastic framework in the Global Landscape Forum also, because we need to discuss about the measures, about the technology, about the framework also, and the responses that we are going to make. So I think, I mean, the big countries uh, encourage us to do it, and we respond after.
Absolutely. And why have you chosen to use the Global Landscapes Forum as a platform for these discussions and this framework development?
For me, it's a natural forum because it's a multi-stakeholder platform. It's not only government, but academia. It's also the local level, indigenous organizations, different stakeholders. You get a whole range of people that work directly with landscape, directly with ecosystem restoration. So that you can see in that forum implementing projects on the ground, mobilizing funding opportunities, harnessing innovation in restoration activities. You could also you can also see knowledge and ideas, and you have the discussion of that knowledge and ideas. For me, my our in my country restoration program is like a puzzle. But in a global landscape forum, when I went there, there were a lot of new pieces in my puzzle. It's all the time a new idea, new technology, new framework, um, and it's fantastic for me. And people from all kind of sector come together, discuss together with their own visions, with their own ideas, with their own knowledge, in a common dialogue to address communities, problems, and environmental issues. And it's holistic. It's the only place that you could understand um, the restoration and ecosystem and landscapes ideas in different perspectives. It's the only place. So for me, it was, I mean, the most natural space where the decade of ecosystem restoration could be embraced and harnessed, most importantly.
Well, that's great to hear. And so you had this conversation with Horst over a glass of wine, and this idea came to light. What have been the challenges and what has been surprisingly easy for you in getting it from that initial conversation to the adoption today?
Well, surprising for me was to know that we're not alone. I mean, there are a lot of people trying to do the same thing. I mean, um, I think because we are a small country and maybe nobody knows us a lot, it, it will be very difficult for El Salvador to launch this initiative. And I think it will be very difficult to put together UNEP and FAO because they have two different perspectives about restoration. However, it was totally different, and they rapidly support our idea of the decade and started working together, and it was fantastic. FAO understood at that time and understand that ecosystem and landscape restoration is essential for sustainable agriculture, for food security, for livelihood. And UNEP is aware of need to reorientate actions and the agenda into restoration activities. And it was very easy. I mean, we were discussed that for almost 2 years, but the reception of the idea, the reception of the decade, it was very easy, and for me was a little bit like a surprise because El Salvador is talking with big guys and people that have I don't know strong institutions, and they were very, very open of that. And at the same time, um, with the CBD Secretary Executive and with the UNCC Secretary Executive, and also, I mean, maybe they're women. I don't know because I think so. I don't know, but everybody understood very quickly, and it's the same with the president of the General Assembly here in the United Nations. So quickly, it was very quick to connect with them and to see the decade like a platform to improve their own activities, and it was fantastic. And it was a little bit difficult for me, just um, I don't know, um, I'm gonna finish the government in 3 months, so I'm not gonna see the decade implemented, maybe. And this is gonna be a little bit difficult, but anyway, I'm gonna see in the place that I'm gonna be. I don't know where, but it's gonna be fantastic.
Mm. It will be fantastic. And I imagine that a big reason that it was adopted and there was so much support for it immediately was because of this optimism. And everyone's looking for that in the face of these huge challenges and
Exactly.
such rapid degradation. I think it's really nice to see
Yes.
a country and a person with such hope. What do you hope your continued role is in this after the next 3 months?
Well, we need to discuss the implementation. FAO and UNEP want to make a steering committee, which is very important. I think we're going to have another countries in that steering committee. And also, I think we need to have a discussion in the next Global Landscape Forum, what we need to do to implement the decade, because my no, it's not my fear. I know it's gonna be implemented, but it has to be very
Mhm.
quickly. So we need to make this steering committee in the next few weeks, and to build a framework, not only a framework for the decade for the implementation, but also a roadmap. Uh,
Mhm.
we need we have to be sure that it's gonna be a success this decade.
Mhm. Absolutely. And unlocking private finance is often cited as a major hurdle for getting restoration efforts really underway. And what do you hope that this decade can and will do differently to boost private finance?
I think the big challenge the decade has is to demonstrate to all sectors in the society that restoring ecosystem is not a philanthropic activity or charity. Um, but on the contrary, it makes an economic sector highly competitive. We need to demonstrate that. We need to engage to the private sector. Ecosystem restoration is a central a key issue for the sustainability of economic activities. And we have to work very hard to demonstrate the private sector and to assure a long-term productivity for them, to guarantee the natural resources are going to be for them. We need to protect biodiversity, not not against the people. I mean, not from the people, but for them, for they have the natural resources available for their own productive activities. So the decade, I think, needs to make this mainstreaming of conservation, restoration, and productivity also, an economic issue. And it has to be in the national policies and development plans to mobilize financial resources, but also that the private sector uh, really understand that they are going to have also more financial resources for their own activities. So this is the main issue for me to establish an atmosphere of trust, to allow, promote, facilitate great activities involved to the relevant sector.
Mm-hmm.
Main issue.
Mm-hmm. There's this number often cited that there are 2 billion hectares of opportunity for restoration. And you're an optimist, but you also have said that you're a realist. Of those 2 billion, what do you think is realistic? And what do you think is really realistic for this decade to accomplish in its 10 years?
I think the goal is realistic. The problem is that we need to convince the other that it's important for them. This is for me the big issue. Because if you make these restoration programs like ecological restoration, this is not going to be possible. But if you assure involve the sector, the private sector, the economic, the most important economical sector, I think they are going to be part of them, and it's going to be a huge restoration program around the world. So you have to demonstrate that if you restore a landscape, the main activities in your country are going to be more easier, more even more cheap. I don't know. It's going to be better for them. I think the goal is not the problem. The problem is that we cannot we cannot convince the others to do it. And decade it's going to allow for us to convince them to integrate that. So,
Okay. And are there any specific certain places in the earth that are really precious to you and that you've seen suffer the detrimental effects of climate change and you're really passionate about restoring these specific landscapes, a really special place in your heart?
yes, of course, my country. Of course, in my country, but not only in my country. Actually, we have an area in Central America. We call this area like the Corredor Seco, the dry corridor, which is
Mm-hmm.
a very area which is very vulnerable area because of the impact of the climate change. So my dream is to see this area with a different name, like the biodiversity corridor, and not the dry corridor. And I think it's possible. It's going to be possible in the next 10 years. But there are a lot of landscape, like in India, in China, even in Latin America, in Brazil, Peru, Colombia, in Chile, um, and they are gonna have a lot of success also.
Mhm. Uh, After you gave your speech and after the decade was officially adopted today, the United States voiced some of their concerns. How will these concerns be addressed, and going forward, how will countries' concerns continue to be addressed?
I think we need to improve our dialogue with this country, especially with the United States. Of course, it's important. It's an important issue that we need to convince them that climate change is a reality, that climate change impact in our natural resources, that the restoration program is a key issue about the sustainable development. We need to improve our dialogue, of course. It's a wake-up call. I mean, yes, and we're going to do it. I think they make the same issue in every decade or declaration or so on because they need to put their position in every subject. But even though I think it's very important to convince and to try to discuss with them the importance that countries like the United States to be part of this declaration. And they support our declaration. They make that statement and just after the decision. So, that's okay.
Mhm. And then what can the general public, the average citizen, do to help this decade successfully achieve its goals?
I think in the first place, they must understand that they are not an average citizen. I mean, we all have a role, an important role during the decade. It is a change on the way that we produce, but also it's a change in the way that we consume. We're consumers. We need to change that. It requires a transformational change, a change in how we use our natural resources and take care of them, and making awareness campaign on what these resources mean to all of us and how it affects our living conditions to make the sustainable decisions. So we need to understand the impact on relationships that the dynamics and function of ecosystems and their services have a is a key issue for their survival. It's not only about a good life; it's about to live or die. So they need to understand that, for example, the people who live in the coastal areas, the people who live in the mountains with a lot of floods and so on, and they need to assume that restoration impacts directly on their livelihood, and they need to change. We are in a new era, the climate change era. We are in a new scenario. We need to restore together. We need to change that, prepare that product than others, prepare that production, that type of production than others. This is a main issue for the citizenship. So nobody is an average city now. Nobody. Everybody is important now. And every decision is a key decision for our next future.
Mhm. It's a really important message to remember.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you would like to add?
Well, no, I'm just want to say that I'm super happy. This decade is going to be a successful story. And if we are doing together, oh, nobody's going to stop us. really.
I so hope so. That's a
Yeah.
beautiful message. Thank you, Minister Pohl. It's been such a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you. Thanks to you, Gabrielle. Thank you.